it's to connect with an audience, and it's connect with people that value and appreciate the materials that are being used.
And I want a good show, damn it. Ready for a good show?
Doing awesome, yeah. I'm excited to talk to you, Andrew. Thank you for having me.
Yes.
I've always been doing big into archery, and my dad said, "Hey, you guys want to start an archery store?"
That's how it was.
Andrew, yes, of course. Let's do this together.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Ecommerce Show. Hello, everyone. As usual, I'm your host, Andrew Maff. Welcome back to the Ecommerce Show. And today I'm joined by another Andrew Beltran, who is the co-founder over at Original Grain. Andrew, how you doing, buddy? You ready for a good show?
Hey, doing good, brother. Thanks for having us. Yeah, thank you, man.
Yeah. I am so excited to have you on the show. I know you already gave me a little bit of sneak peek about what we're going to talk about today, but I won't ruin it. I'll let you do the fun part of that. But I do like starting these off relatively stereotypically. Just tell us a little bit about your background, how you got started with Original Grain. We're going to take it from there, right, buddy?
Of course, yeah. We can take you back 12 years or so, maybe even a little further. I grew up in the Pacific Northwest, small town outside of Eugene, town called Crestwell. A small town kid. I ended up joining the Marine Corps, kind of opportunity to get out of town, also serve the country. It really meant a lot to me and my family and kind of the history that my family holds. So I joined the Marines. On the way back from actually deployment, we stopped for 2 days of R&R on our way home. And my brother was there with a few watch samples, and he kind of showed me these all kind of wood watches. And it just felt like there was this natural connection, growing up in the Northwest. And it was very simple at the time. It was just the idea of combining wood and steel. And it was just something about it that I just saw a lot of story in the wood and a lot of history in the wood. And growing up in the Northwest, there is a connection to handcrafted products. So I just really loved where that was currently at the stage, and essentially just invested kind of all my deployment money to get this thing kind of kicked off with custom molds, a small production run to just kind of test the market. And, 21 years old, really no experience on direct to consumer e-commerce marketing, but really just a passion for product. And, my brother and I grew up working together, teammates. We built a ton of trust when we were young. He's my older brother, 2 years older. It just felt like we'd get the team back. It was like, let's get it was simple ideology to get this brand started. Did not know 12 years later, I'd be sitting in where I am currently as a brand. And it's funny, there's still a lot of people who don't know Original Grain. And we always say that's a good thing, really grown the company, a few different stages of growth, and, 2020 kind of leveled the tides, and then we were able to kind of take off again. And there's still people, even in the e-commerce world, that don't know us. And there's a ton of runway for us. And so we're really blessed to be where we are. A 12-year anniversary here this month. And so it's been a journey. Yep.
Nice. Watches. I mean, what a wildly competitive and complicated space, right? You've got dirt cheap watches. You have watches that are so incredibly expensive. It's amazing. Then obviously in the last 12 years, you've said since you've started, you had the growth of obviously like smart watches and things like that. So you've gone through the ringer over the past 12 years. What was kind of that process of how you're differentiating and how you're still continuing to grow despite all of the noise?
Yeah, you really don't get in the watches. We're battling giants that have been around for 200 years. Yeah, Swiss and Italian. Not two mixed kids from a small town. Hispanic, Latino kids. This was not in the cards for us. But we come from a good place in how we start our design process. And it's to connect with an audience, and it's to connect with people that value and appreciate the materials that are being used. And that's unlike any other company really out there. You're starting to see some of it, with some of the space and the meteorite. Sure, there is some material there that people are starting to tell, which I really applaud when you're seeing some of this. But it starts with the design process. And when we go out and we think about, we want to connect with whiskey lovers, in Tennessee. Like, we know, well, we're going to go to Jack Daniel's and we're going to get whiskey barrels. Obviously, there's a partnership and a licensing agreement that's in place for things of that nature. But it's all across the board. Our military collection, where we're taking authentic ammunition crate wood, and we leave some of the wood even to have some of that tarnishing, and that authenticity. Like, it just comes down to that, and like what we're after when we start a design process. And I think the consumers and the people that see our videos online, they think of the memories that they've already shared, with people that they love, or someone that they love. And I know a lot of women purchasing for their husband who loves craft beer, and we got the craft beer collection, so we're tapping into affinities, and not just with unique design and steez and aesthetic. It's through authentic materials, and it's a heck of a process. It's not a simple cut and paste in a mold and let's rock, and they're limited in nature, so we're going out and making these production runs, sometimes 100, 250 pieces, which we found, ways to scale certain collections just by finding materials that there is an abundance and sustainably sourced, this and that. And so I think that's how we've been able to really tap in and capture the eyeballs online, is just really connecting with via material and designing right into that and telling that story via the marketing.
Yeah. I mean, it's a very interesting business model, right? Like, you think of companies that, do partnerships with other businesses all the time. Great. And they kind of find ways to sell each other's products, and that's it. And then you have like the licensing side, which tends to be like, oh, how do I put Mickey's face on, whatever product I'm selling? And like, that's it. But in your scenario, it's more about the material of what these bigger brands have done. And then you're kind of leveraging their existing brand awareness from that. It's a very interesting model. So what was it that kind of got you like thinking about that? And I also got to ask, how complicated are those licensing agreements, considering that you're not really like, you're using their stuff, but you're not always using like their logo and everything?
All of the licensing agreements kind of feel a little different to some degree.
Yeah.
So there is some complexity, sometimes the owner of the wood, Grand Ole Opry, that wood is, 100 years old. It's been through so much sage wood. Like, there's actually a dollar value on that wood that they have associated.
It's amazing.
So we got to buy that wood. Other companies like Jack Daniel's, they can, I think it's Tennessee law, you can only use a barrel once. So there is like these other partners where there is an abundance of barrels, we're able to kind of go in and get the materials. And, when we originally started this company, we were kind of like looking to kind of raise some money. It was like our second year. We had an investor that we really wanted to get in front of. And so I remember we purchased some New York Yankees stadium chairs. And that was like our first kind of like dabble in like, Yankees, like history, like 100 years of history from the stadium, and making a watch for him to kind of like get him very interested into the company. So we were able to kind of win him over, to get some initial round of investment. I say that honestly with a little bit of an asterisk because, 2 years ago, my brother and I were actually able to buy out all the old investors, just kind of grace of God, good opportunity. Ryan and I found an opportunity to buy those investors out, but it was kind of, to almost impress somebody. And he goes, okay, I will invest. Why don't we kind of take this to the next level, contact the MLB and work through the licensing side of things. And so The MLB was one of our first kind of big licenses. Jim Beam was kind of in there in that same era. I mean, we've had to get smart with it. There's been different kind of agreements that have been put in place that we've tested the waters, and we kind of know what works nowadays and the scale that we need to get to for it to really pencil.
What about like, so when you're ready, once those products are in your hand, you're ready, like, all right, we're going to start announcing these, we're going to start, pushing them out. You've just listed like 15 different types of customer profiles, right? You've got the MLB lover, you have the whiskey lover, you have the beer lover. Like how do you plan out like, okay, for this product line, here's how we're going to make this announcement? And I'm very aware some of those customers are going to have some overlap, but you're still going after net new people at the same time too. So what's that process like?
Yeah, no, the creative direction is very important. Like we spend a ton of time mood board and making sure it's all cohesive. We like to feel like, well, it is the same guy. Like it's the guy who drives a Ford, which we got a license for, that sits on the back drinking a Coors, pulling maybe an Airstream, like on his way to Jack. Like it feels like it's the same guy, to some degree.
Yeah.
And it's kind of this avatar, but it just comes down to just creating good content. I hate to say that, like I feel like good content can really sell anything, and quality edits and this and that. So it is semi the same avatar, but we just lean into the story as much as we can, and we go to the locations. Like we're about to drop a partnership with Coors. We're going to Golden, Colorado. We got to, and we're just out in Nashville at the Grand Ole Opry. Like we're just there. We're telling these partner stories. They're celebrating an anniversary, 100 years. Like let's try to capture all of that, and you got to be there for it. So we do a lot of traveling. Our team, like we just came back from Nash. Like we're on our way to Golden, Colorado next month. Like we're consistently, going to the source, and trying to just pull in as much authenticity from that story and creative that we can, and then let the marketing kind of take course.
What's the approach for the marketing side to spread that message? Grand Ole Opry, I'd imagine like you've got all those artists you could lean in on from an influencer perspective, but I also know that they're not cheap artists if they played the Grand Ole Opry. So like, what's the approach? Do you leverage the influencers that are relevant to those partners, or do you kind of have ones that you already work with?
Yeah. Yeah. We're going to go grab some military guys, to really kind of to create content for us. We're always going to launch with whitelisted advertising, which I hate that term. Everybody always gets collaborative. That's where everybody runs for the hills when they hear, can we whitelist with you? So yeah, it's it is dynamic, and we're making sure we have 2 or 3, we got the Red Farron kind of connect. He just did his Opry debut, Ryan Montgomery, like some smaller artists that are really like setting their foot on the stage and getting going. Like, so, we're thinking creatively on how we go get creative. It's like, let's not just use this. We rarely ever use just like the same influencers. It kind of as authentic as the materials need to be. We're kind of getting at just as granular with those folks that we go getting creative from. And we bake it all in, it's a package, where it's going to be collaborative posts, creative, working together, full access, obviously, to the content, and just making sure we have enough creative to kind of fill the funnels and tell that story, and so it's pretty dynamic on how we're going to go out and get creative. And by the way, don't forget about your best sellers. We were just in Nashville and it's like, we got all this content of Grand Ole Opry. It's great. We don't have a huge forecast for it this coming quarter, but we definitely do for all our best sellers. Let's not forget what pays the bills. So we're kind of, it's just it's definitely a balancing act. It's hard to get so excited on a SKU that's been around for 8 years, but our top 10 are kind of our tried and true, and we have those quarterly bumps, where it's like, okay, it's a new drop. We did our Bob Marley release last year when, Bob dropped the movie and it was incredible. And we're like, we're going to, but then that slowly did die, so it has begun to kind of come back to reality. When the movie was hot, that collection was just flying, tons of presets and just getting that thing into the market.
Yeah.
But,
it's interesting to do like that concept of drops where you're almost like building a ton of press around a very specific product line, but you also kind of have to know that there's a good chance that in most scenarios that product line is going to die off and it's still your tried and true. That's actually what you're trying to feed. Yeah. So it's kind of an interesting, like how you're using different product lines for different product margins. 12 years ago, your brother came to you with this sample and you decided to do this. Was this the direction that you thought the business would go in, that you would do these partnerships? Or were you like, no, we're just going to make some cool wood watches and that's what the direction is going to be like? How many times did you pivot?
Yeah, I just did it. I didn't have the experience. I didn't know I didn't even know the term licensing, right? From the Marines. Like I didn't even understand, but I 100% saw the vision of recycling materials that told a story. And I just kind of like just pull way back when I saw this company, and I was just like, this is made for the guys that were on the front lines. Let's pull in that story, like how, and we can do that through a material like, wood. And we've since been able to actually use wood outside of wood, materials outside of wood, by using like resin, which you see in a lot of tabletops and this and that furniture. And so we've been using a lot of resin where we're taking even like forest fire wood, from all the fires that have happened. And, as far as the license, like I didn't even know what that word was, so that is kind of funny, but been able to just adjust, and take a look at the market and see a lot of the, I don't want to reference the Supreme model because there's some other companies that do it better, but, they had a run too where they're in front of all these different brand collaborations, and it's just such a good tactic to acquiring new customers. And then sure enough, those customers are coming in and buying all the old stuff. So it's a good marketing, to go get something fresh, keeping things fresh in the market. And we've been able to roll with that.
Are you selling anywhere else besides your own website?
We back in 2017, 18, we had a decent retailer, 300 plus stores. It was a disaster in 2020 when everybody decided, are we going to be open or not? I still am licking my wounds from some of that. Just, realizing how not important I am to some of the retailers. There is some that treated us with kindness, but there was many that did not. And, hundreds and thousands of watches sent back in boxes that were, because they weren't sure if their doors were going to open. We are looking for some key retailers currently, but as of right now, we just got hyper focused after 2020, and we just said let's just focus on what we do and what we can control with the smaller team, and just let's get real deep into our P&L and make this thing look and be as profitable as possible. And we kind of shrunk to grow again, and it's a scary time. 2020 was, a lot of question marks, and nobody really needs a watch. Everyone's at home. There's companies, there's some darlings, COVID darlings out there that just right place, right time, and ran it up. We actually really kind of pulled our way back, and we probably shrunk by 50+% and intentionally. And my brother Ryan and I just had to take a look at just like our overhead, what we were doing, what we were doing it for, who we were doing it with. And, it was just, we were immature in a lot of aspects too on why we were doing like our why was in the wrong place. Like I really gave a damn how many employees we had and the big office thing and right next to the ballpark in San Diego. And it meant a lot, it felt like it, but it wasn't doing jack for the company, and we had to mature and kind of go through the war zone there of 2020. And now we got such a lean team, such a slick team that's everyone's incentivized that's on the team through, whether it be bonuses, high salary. And we just got killed with, I hate to say it, and some people might hear this and be like kind of maybe goosebumps or pissed, but like middle management kind of killed us. Like we tried to grow a company like how we thought it should look for, we're talking about the 500 Fortune 500, like, we need a director, we need somebody, a manager, we need somebody. We had all this like rank structure in order, which it feels when you read a textbook, that's how you build the company. And it's just honestly, middle management just like killed the aura around our company. I hate using that word. I just used it. It's like it killed us, man. Yeah. No one was doing anything. Everyone was looking for like, but we're paying all these people decent salaries, but we're going to have the junior guy do it. And it's like, and then they're going to oversee it. And everything was clunky and slow. And now I got 4 or 5 people in our team that are just like willing and able and fired up. And we're back above where we had ever been back in 17 and 18, clearly way more profitable. And it's just, it was a necessary evil for us. I know 2020 was terrible in so many aspects, but from like our business siloing that, we were able to kind of like course correct and kind of grow up a bit.
It's very interesting to hear you say that. There is not a lot of businesses that will do that, right? Like they would rather keep hammering at the same thing because the idea of taking a step back in order to take a step forward is just something that no one wants to do. And they're looking at the vanity metrics. Like people are looking at revenue when in reality, who cares if you're not profitable? Or to your point, a big one is how many employees do you have? So many people will ask business owners like, oh, you're a business owner. Like, oh, I'm curious how big your business is. How many employees do you have? That means nothing. If you're in a service-based business, you have wildly more employees than someone who could be way more successful than you. So it means nothing. So it's interesting to hear that you guys had the wherewithal to be like, no. This is all vanity. This is all BS stuff that we don't need. Let's tear it back. And it seems, correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems like you're in a much better position now.
Such a better place and really control of our destiny. Had a couple incredible back-to-back years, stacking some chips. They got the war chest full. And we're like, okay, now we can actually maybe go make these specific hires and kind of build that team up a bit more. We've already hired 2 people this year and just, but do it very intentionally, and someone who's going to come in and just really make an impact, and not so they can sit underneath somebody and then take workload off of this guy's back. It's like all the system is fluent right now. We don't want to go muddy the waters. It's like, they can actually make an impact. That's kind of how we've been hiring and culture. Like we just went through a hiring thing. We had so many good applicants, dude, and it was like, but this guy who's a little underqualified, he's definitely one of the crew. Like he's a little young, he's like the younger version of us, like where we can actually like teach this guy something. And he came in, and it's just funny how we're even hiring a little differently. Just culture, like, it can't come in and mess up what we got going right here right now. So it's fun. Hey,
Andrew, this was awesome. Always pleasure talking to another Andrew. I don't want to take up too much of your time. I know you're super busy, but I would love to give you the opportunity, let everyone know where they can find out more about you and, of course, more about Original Grain.
Yeah, Original Grain, originalgrain.com, Original Grain on social. Just hit us up. And Andrew at originalgrain.com. I'm always open to other business owners. Feel free. Love to get back to anybody who's got something.
Love it. Really appreciate your time. Obviously, everyone that joined us, thank you as well. Please make sure you do the usual thing, rate, review, subscribe, all that fun stuff on whichever podcast platform you prefer, or head over to the ecommshow.com to check out all of our previous episodes. But as usual, thank you all for joining us. We'll see you all next time. Have a good one.
Thank you for tuning in to the Ecomm Show. Head over to ecommshow.com to subscribe on your favorite podcast platform or on the BlueTuskr YouTube channel. The Ecomm Show is brought to you by BlueTuskr, a full-service digital marketing company specifically for e-commerce sellers looking to accelerate their growth. Go to BlueTuskr.com now for more information. Make sure to tune in next week for another amazing episode of The Ecomm Show.